Hi everyone, so today I will be replacing the coolant pump on the car. So as I've said before, there's something wrong with it, so it gives a drivetrain error and reduced power output. So the first phase in fixing that is replacing the pump. And one of my previous videos I just sort of connected up the replacement pump next to this. I just ran water through the replacement pump and the drivetrain error went away, so we're going to have to replace that. So the first thing we need to do is jack up the car and take off this wheel so we can get into the pump. And before I do that, what I'm going to do is siphon as much of the coolant as possible out of this tank. It says in the technical literature from BMW that you're not meant to reuse coolant that comes out of this, so I'll just keep the coolant that comes out of it and just use it for like my refrigeration projects or whatever, like my compressed air dryer or something like that. It's not just a case of pouring coolant into this, you actually have to create a vacuum. So I've got some makeshift tools here. So this is going to be my vacuum filler. So what will happen is this big hose will go into a tank of coolant. That small hose, I'll put a small hose in there and connect it to this vacuum pump, which is just an old refrigeration compressor. And I'll have to pull a vacuum on that before letting the coolant in through this hose. But I'm going to just put a couple of holes in this lid, just put a hose into there and just suck out as much coolant as I can first. Right, so that's it all jacked up now. So you need to take out all the screws up to here, that one there, and there's also one that's just down in here as well. So then you've got to try and bend this up out of the way. And there's the offending article right there, so we've got to then try and pop off those coolant hoses and drain out the coolant. Like, I don't know how on earth you're meant to do that, because there's that one in there which looks pretty right hassle to access. Maybe if you pull on the pump the hose actually extends a bit. I'm hoping so, because I have my basin here to drain the coolant into. What you'll also find is, I'll try and show you it a bit better if I keep getting here, is that mount there, although it's made of rubber, the inside, the part that's attached to the car actually rusts, so it makes it very difficult to get this off. So I've just sprayed some WD-40 equivalent into it, so I should hopefully get it off. It's been an absolute nightmare. I just can't get it to move at all. So if you look at this one, as you can see, it's just a piece of metal that slots into the rubber. But obviously with metal rusting over time, it just sort of kind of sticks on. So here we go. I sort of just had to stick a screwdriver into the mount and kind of pry the rubber off, and this doesn't come back any further, so it's not like you can pull it out. So it's now time to try and drain it. It's just this whole car, I've never seen something so stupidly designed in my life. Like, it's just, why on earth do they hide all the important power control modules inside it where you can hardly access them, and it makes it so much more difficult to repair? It's just stupid. Because like in the Kia Niro, which my friend has, like, you open the bonnet and like all the inverters and power control electronics are sitting there on top, easy to access and work with. It's sheer stupidity. Right, so ran over, and now you have to try and pull the clip out of this connector here. I'll just go for this one first, I think. And I think after actually, I don't know if it turns, because in the end of that you actually have to pull this clip so it moves and clicks into that slot there, and then you've just got to try and drain it off as best you can. I was hoping to be able to put my basin under here, but I don't know what I'm going to do now. Right, so here's a better view of what needs to happen. That clip there, you've just got to get something in underneath it, click it out, and then I'll probably just put my finger over the end of the pump because coolant's going to come pishing out of that. And then this hose here, I'll just point over the basin which I'll put down here. Fucking stones in that. Come here, you bastard. Clip undone. Here it goes. This is going to be a mess. I was hoping to keep that coolant clean, but we'll just have to filter it. Still got my thumb over this pump and there's a little bit of pressure on it. Right. Could have prepared this a bit better. Yeah, the more I work on this car, the more pissed I'll forget with it, really. Right. Just have to try and ram a hose in the end of it so I can drain the coolant out the pump. Try and get the air out of this hose. There we go. So that's what I've done. I'll just put this hose in the end of the pump. I'm just going to wait until nothing else comes out, until it just stops flowing. This is what happens when stuff's so stupidly designed. If I was to be able to cash out coolant properly, I'd need to take this whole bottom panel off the car. It's just still coming out. There we get it finished now. I don't think there's much more trying to come out of it. There you go, it's sort of draining the way that I want it to now. Thankfully not very much of it has went on the ground. So I'm going to have to get into the other clip on the front of the pump and then pull that off as well, which is going to be very awkward. So all the connectors is exactly the same, just a little clip, just pull it out and then pull the pump and then it'll come off. Okay, so here's the stage we should be at now. Your connector should look like this with the clips in the open position. So it's time to insert the new pump. It may be a good idea to just put some silicone lubricant on the on the rubber there, so it goes on easier. So the new pump needs to be inserted and connectors plugged in. So we just push them in as far as they'll go, then press on the clip until it clicks into place, and that's that on. Next one. And oh, that's secure. Right. So I guess what I'll do now is just pull a vacuum on it and get some coolant in. Just making sure that those connections are indeed in properly. They seem to be, so that's fine. Another thing, just have a bucket of water nearby just to wash your hands, so you're not got that antifreeze on you for too long. So here's my sort of vacuum filling device. Just designed it like this. The small hole here, that's where the vacuum is pulled, and the larger tube here is where the coolant will flow in. I'm going to just have to pinch off the hose, unfortunately, because I don't actually have a ball valve anywhere with me, but ideally you would have a valve so you could just open it and let the coolant flow in. And you'd also have a vacuum gauge. I think you need to get you need to pull quite a decent vacuum. I think it's negative 0.7 bar or something like that, which is it's a considerable vacuum actually. So I'm just going to sort of stick this in here and just seal round it with blue tack, because I don't actually have, I had to 3D print this because I sort of cork thing, because I don't really have, I couldn't get 3D models of sort of a cap to go on this. Well, I found something to stick in the end of there, so just pulling the vacuum on it just now. I'm just watching because coolant will start probably bubbling through this, so just to be careful, because we don't want to go back into the vacuum pump, so that'd be kind of bad. And I can hear all the air flowing through it. You can see the expansion tank filling up as the air gets displaced. So what I'll do is, when that's roughly done, I'll just kink the hose and then just dip it into the coolant which I've got, which is the Extreme G48 coolant, and then just let the vacuum suck the coolant in. Okay, this is the best view I can do, unfortunately, because I've not got a tripod, so I'm just going to dip the hose in the coolant. I've got it kinked off. I'm just going to let it suck coolant in. Oh. Oh, coolant's going in now. Vacuum's still on, by the way. Now I'm going to disconnect the vacuum, cut it off, and then just let the vacuum that's in the system just suck in the coolant. That's the system filling with coolant now. Albeit rather slowly. Right, so maybe we're going to need a little bit more vacuum so we can get more coolant to go in. Right, so what I'm going to do is plug in the coolant pump and try and get it to run, and then we'll just see what happens. Oh, it looks like it's trying to bleed itself anyway. Still sounds like a fair bit of air in it. As always, the air conditioning just randomly switches on. Very, very energy efficient, of course. So I'm just going to have to let that pump run for a while. Sounds like it's bled itself, not too bad. Sounds like there's a little bit of air in it, but that should hopefully clear. We're just mostly concerned now about the drivetrain error. Now I did do a test. Right. So I'm just trying to switch the car on, put it in drive. See if this drivetrain error comes up again. It'll usually be about after 30 seconds, so I think this has maybe done it. The only thing is though, as I said in the previous video, the front fan was still running full power all the time. So maybe what I need to do is just take it for, maybe just plug this in, see if I could clear all the fault codes in the ISTA system on the laptop, and then if that works then, well, all good. But yeah, all seems well, just now anyway. Okay, so the charging with reduced power error has disappeared, but the only problem is the front cooling fan is still running full power all the time. So I'll just unplug the relay from it. So what I'm going to do is just plug it into a laptop later on today, try to figure out what's wrong with it, and decide if the EDME unit needs to be replaced or not.